Hey, award fans. Welcome to part two of our critique of the TCA Awards. That's the Television Critics Association. Our first installment so infuriated one member of the TCA Board of Directors that he actually blasted us on Twitter as morons, in all capital letters, proving once again that some critics just can't take criticism. Or, if you don't want to discuss the facts, just hurl playground insults. So how do we plan on responding? By upping the level of criticism, of course. Stick around. We're going to give you all the dirt on this year's TCA nominees and past winners, but we're also going to make a point of examining the really great past winners, because that's what this award does so well when it is at its best. It goes to exemplary TV shows like Friday Night Lights, Easy Streets, Sports Night, Malcolm in the Middle, twice, and Battlestar Galactica. None of those shows won major Emmy awards. Shame on you, Emmys. But Battlestar Galactica is a very good example of what's wrong with the TCA Awards. It didn't win any major prizes prior to its final year, and then it was just given the Program of the Year award as a parting gift, a kind of farewell kiss. At least that was better than the treatment that The Wire and Buffy the Vampire Slayer got. They got stuck with the bogus Heritage Award, which includes nominations for old shows like The Carol Burnett Show, just to make sure you win. In 2008, for example, when The Wire won, it actually beat MASH and Roots. Come on, TCA, get rid of that ridiculous Heritage Award. Either have it all be old shows or current shows, but not both. The TCA Award is bestowed by the Television Critics Association, which has been around for about 30 years. These are journalists who do not believe in transparency. Go to their website and you will not find a list of members, just the names of current leaders. Go to the sites for the New York Film Critics Circle, the Los Angeles Film Critics Association, or hell, the Golden Globe's own Hollywood Foreign Press Association, but not TCA. They won't reveal this information. And maybe it's just because their website's so lousy that they haven't gotten around to fixing the membership issue. These media professionals have a very unprofessional website. Look at the database. We are days away right now from the 2014 TCA Awards from being bestowed. They haven't bothered adding last year's winners to the database yet. What are you waiting for? I'm sorry if this all comes across as far too critical. At Gold Derby, we love awards, but it's our job to monitor the awards. And sometimes we have to speak harshly about them. Not so long ago, we came down very hard against the Critics' Choice Awards. We questioned the validity of their members. Joey Berlin, the president of the organization, took the criticism to heart, much to his credit. He went to his board of directors, put these accusations down in front of them, said, let's discuss it. They agreed, for the most part, with our estimations, and they made changes. And now the Critics' Choice Awards are far better for it. At least that's what Joey tells me when I see him. Maybe he's still bearing a secret grudge. But this is the spirit in which we offer the current insights to you guys at TCA, and we hope you accept them in that spirit. Now, let's bring in Marcus Dixon and Riley Chow, who were joining us for the last chat, and let's get their current views.
For people that don't know that are watching this, they combine actors and actresses and lead and supporting all into one category. They lump them all together, and there's only 5 nominees. So when you look at the whole of television of 1 year, and you say that there's only 5 people that are worthy of a nomination for the drama, and then 5 people for all of comedy, it's missing. There's something missing there. And the Emmys have a solution for it. They have, they separate men and women. They separate lead and supporting. The TCA does not.
The disparity between these two awards, Riley, the different voting methods that they have, lead to some very different results when we look just at this year, for example, comparing TCA with Critics' Choice. Give us some examples.
This year, Silicon Valley and Brooklyn Nine-Nine fared very differently. Masters of Sex is another one. Did very well at one award and not so well at the others. Because whereas the Critics' Choice, I guess, employs more traditional method of voting. The TCA, the way they nominate, you only submit 2 names per category when you're filling out your ballot. And also, as you're filling out your ballot, you kind of just fill it out however you want. So you can place shows in any category that you feel like. And that's how we see something like Orange is the New Black being on the second most top 10 list at the end of last year, and then not getting a nomination this year in either Best Comedy or Best Drama, because votes were just split between the 2 categories.
Right. But let's point out some of the absolutely lunatic things at the TCA nominations this year. You mentioned Silicon Valley. That has an 84 rating at Metacritic. It has 0 TCA nominations. It has 3 Critics' Choice nominations over there. And it's not up for example, Program of the Year, whereas Sleepy Hollow, with a Metacritic score of 64, is nominated there, right. Masters of Sex, 0 nominations from the TCA, 5 from the Critics' Choice Awards. In other words, that tells us that they like it over there, and they share many of the same members, of course. Masters of Sex has an 85 score from Metacritic.
As I mentioned, you can only put 2 shows on your ballot. So if you think you like Breaking Bad, you like Mad Men, you like True Detective, already that's too many shows. So they just didn't get a chance to put Masters of Sex on, because maybe that's a show that everybody likes, but maybe a few people think is the best.
There is a difference here with the Emmys, by the way, which have a much more sensible system. I never thought I would say those words. If you look over at the program ballot, for example, that's right now over at the Emmy website, you'll see that the top program awards, for example, comedy and drama series, if you're a voter, you make 10 choices. You list 10, only if 6 will get nominated, of course. For the acting awards, the members of that branch list 6. And I think you're right, Riley. That's primarily the difference between these awards has to do with the methodology between the 2. But what I love about this, because we as awards gurus and analysts at Gold Derby, we're looking for the bullshit factor at awards at all times. And we know that there's no bigger bullshit degree, and I'm sure these critics themselves would agree to a large extent, than there are in critics. Of course, it's an occupation full of huffy opinions, which is part of the fun, of course, and I love it and celebrate their huffy opinions most of the time. But we love to catch hypocrisy, all of us do, and you get to see it ever since the Critics' Choice Awards came on the scene about 3-4 years ago in the inconsistencies between the 2 awards, and they're quite doozies. Marcus, do you have some thoughts?
You know, one thing that I really, really like that the TCA does, every year they nominate the outstanding new program of the year. And that's where we see something like Sleepy Hollow get a nomination and Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But they also, which is very, very strange, they will combine miniseries into that category. So they're saying that Fargo is, one of the best new programs of the year, and True Detective. But at the same time, they're nominated for Best Movie Miniseries. So how could it be, the best new show when it's a miniseries? Am I making sense at all?
Well, what you're pointing out, by the way, and Riley, I want you to come in on this when I'm done blabbing, because I know you have a counter opinion and a far different one. I think the Program of the Year award is the biggest example of the bullshit award at TCA. This is, the Emmys did this many years ago. Back in the early 60s, they had a Program of the Year award. And all of the inconsistencies and contradictions that such a concept automatically introduces by the very fact that it exists cause the Emmys just to scrap the whole thing and run away from it at 100 miles an hour. Here are some of the examples of how ridiculous the Program of the Year award is at TCA. For example, this year, Orange is the New Black is not nominated for comedy or drama series, probably due to the reason that Riley explained, which has to do that they get to put it anywhere they want. It split its votes. But that's no excuse. You cannot have a show called being the contender as Program of the Year, and it's not even a contender for Best Drama Series. Last year, House of Cards and The Walking Dead were not nominated for Outstanding Drama Series, but they were up for Program of the Year.
The big misunderstanding here is that it's actually not supposed to be a better category than Best Drama or Best Comedy, because if you look at the Program of the Year category, you'll see that it's actually the only category that doesn't have the word outstanding in front of it. And it seems kind of sketchy because, how could something be the Program of the Year without being the Best Drama or vice versa? But Program of the Year is supposed to take into account cultural impact. So you have something like The Walking Dead or House of Cards, and those are, they're critically acclaimed shows, but they're not exactly shows that the critics are going to say are among their 5 favorites. But The Walking Dead was the highest rated show, in the 1849 demographic on television. And for a show to have such high ratings, be on cable, and have decent critical acclaim, that makes it a program of the year because it's the perfect marriage of critical acclaim and popular cultural relevance. House of Cards, they innovated with their release system where they were on Netflix all at once. So that's another reason why that show would get in there. And then you have something like Mad Men, which can win Best Drama for its 4th season, and yet it's not nominated for Program of the Year. And how do we explain this? Well, in its 4th season, Mad Men is not exactly news. If it's good, that's nothing new.
Well, that's not. What about news? I mean, so what if something is news or not? They're supposed to be rewarding excellence. Outstanding is implied in the Program of the Year award.
I think that they didn't put outstanding in kind of shows that it's not supposed to be implied. And then, like this year, for example, it gets kind of tricky because you look at the 5 Program of the Year nominees, and they kind of just look like what the 5, outstanding Program of the Year nominees would be, because they do appear to be the 5 most critically acclaimed shows. But you also, if you look at each of the nominees, you'll see that they each have some kind of X factor, which is important for the category. So it just happens that Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad, which have been winning Program of the Year in recent years, are now among the highest rated shows on TV. So they're both critically acclaimed and popular successes.
I think the reason this category exists, by the way, is because they want to give away a second award. That's generally why the award groups do this. So only 2 comedies have been nominated for Program of the Year in recent years, Parks and Rec and Modern Family. Otherwise, it's all drama series. So this is a way for them to say, okay, we're going to give Game of Thrones, Program of the Year. We'll give Breaking Bad, drama series. That is an element, right, Marcus?
2012 was a perfect year. Game of Thrones wins Program of the Year. And then what wins miniseries? It's Downton Abbey. But Downton Abbey is a series. According to the Emmys, according to every award show, Downton Abbey is a drama series. The only reason it's a miniseries at TCA is so that it can win awards and they can look cool. But look, we're giving awards to Downton Abbey. We're doing it in this weaker category, but we're still going to do it.
I want to bring up one of our frequent complaints about TCA, which they seem to have really worked on in recent years. So way to go, guys. And it has to do with the fact that this is really a guy-heavy organization. In the past, the males have dominated females so much that it was embarrassing to look through those lists of nominees for Best Individual Achievement in Comedy and Drama because so few women were nominated and so few ever won. In recent years, that has been changing, hallelujah. In the past few years, for example, over on the comedy side, 3 of the 4 nominees for Individual Achievement have been women. This year, 3 of the 5, have been women. This year, that's also true. However, when you look back over the past 10 years, only 2 have won. It was Jane Lynch and Tina Fey. Over on the drama side, this year only 2 of the 5 are women, but last year 3 of the 5 were women, and a woman won. Tatiana did. And over the last 10 years, 4 women have won the Individual Achievement Award. This is the danger, guys. TC, I'm talking to you, of combining the genders, because there is the same bias we see toward men in our culture sneaks in to this awards process just invariably because men are pigs, like Joan Rivers tells us, right? So what about the male bias, you guys? Who wants to speak up on that?
It has been something that I think they've worked on it, and they've gotten a lot better. I mean, when you just said, 3 of the past 4 individual achievement and drama winners were women. Last year, Tatiana. The year before, Claire Danes. 2 years before that, Juliana Margulies. So 3 of the past 4 were women. That's huge for them. It's never happened.
Yes, but previous that all the others were guys.
Yeah, before that was just Edie Falco, and now a whole list of guys.
Yeah. So we want to compliment you there, TCA.
Yeah.
You're doing a good job there. That's great. All right, well, let's take a look at the actual critic scores of current shows in the right rail that you could see on virtually every page at Metacritic in the TV section. And it tells you that the top 10 current shows are Game of Thrones, number 1, Louis, number 2, Orange is the New Black. They're all with scores in the 90s. Also in the top 10 are Hannibal, Portlandia, and In the Flesh. Riley, you're the great defender of the TV critics in general. How can 3 shows be evaluated by these critics as the top 10 shows in America and not get a single TCA nomination?
Okay, well, first of all, the TCA, they only have 5 slots per category, and the list that you're quoting is only referring to the last 3 months, whereas critics are looking at the last year when determining their nominations. But more importantly is an understanding of how Metacritic works, which is critics receive the first maybe 1, 2, 3, sometimes up to 6 episodes from the networks at the beginning of the season. They post a review, and then that's how Metacritic makes the score. So it's not based on the entire season. A great example is Homeland Season 2. Now, the first few episodes of the second season of Homeland were, they were very good, and critics were still feeling very high on Homeland after, the good first season that won Best Drama at the Emmys. So they gave it a 96 on Metacritic, which looks a little ridiculous now when you consider how Homeland ended, and I don't think any critics would agree with that assessment looking back.
Okay, that's a very valid point. For example, Breaking Bad is not on that list because it's not a current show, and we don't get the... but still, the point I'm trying to make is that there is a level of hypocrisy with all awards, of course, and in this case with critics who can say that Hannibal, for example, is one of the greatest shows on TV, and we all believe that's true. We're all glued to Gold Derby, and when it's on, we email each other, oh, did you see what happened? And the critics give it a score of 87, and of course it gets no TCA love. I did hear some of the TCA members gripe about that themselves, so we're not alone in that critique. Marcus, give me some other thoughts that you have, good or bad. We want to say some good things about TCA too, because there's a lot of really great nominations this year. Let's give them some sugar. What do you have?
Right. Well, looking through their list of winners, it's hard to complain about any of their winners over the past 30 years. They do a really good job of picking winners. It's in the nomination process that a lot of people have the issues with. But I mean, look, they gave Seinfeld 2 wins for comedy. They gave The Office 2 wins. They gave Arrested Development 2 wins. These are, some of my personally favorite shows. And, at the Emmys, these shows only got 1 win each. And then you have something like, on the drama side, you have my favorite show of all time, Lost, that one twice. So, when you look through the list of winners, you think, wow, this is a really, really great list. It's the most important shows of, not just of that year, but of our time. The Sopranos, The West Wing, Mad Men, Breaking Bad, these are all multiple winners here at TCA. So it is hard to, when you see that list, it's hard to kind of fight about it. But then one thing that they should do, I keep having suggestions for them, like expanding the categories, evolving the categories. Why is there no variety category? You have something like The Daily Show winning Best Comedy. There needs to be a variety categories. So something like Portlandia would have a place on their telecast.
I think that's pretty fair that they need a variety category. Like now The Daily Show is nominated for Best News and Information because I guess that's where it fits best. I think it's very easy to attack the TCA for, missing The Wire, missing Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but I think they actually pick up a lot of the slack that, we give the Emmy slack for. They've given awards to Tatiana Maslany, Louis C.K. for acting, Nick Offerman, John Hamm, Steve Carell, Hugh Laurie, Michael C. Hall, Bernie Mac, Ian McShane. Like, these are all people that probably should have won Emmys, but the Emmys, they kind of latch on to one show, let's say Modern Family, and then they just awarded year after year after year. Whereas the TCA, they're very conscious of who they gave awards to in past years, and also who they're giving awards to in the current year, because they're voting in every category instead of the Emmys, where they're just voting in one. So they try to spread the wealth after they make sure that something has gotten, it's just due, like The Office or Arrested Development winning twice.
That's not necessarily true. I remember the years when Jane Kasmerick won every single year for that individual achievement for comedy, and thank God she did. The TCA got that right. Look, I look back at the TCA winners list in years past too, and I think it's a marvelous thing. And there are a lot of courageous things on those lists, shows that they were pushing. So look, a lot of kudos go to them. We're just giving them the beeswax because they stuck it to us. So we're getting on our thrones and high horses and saying, oh yeah, well, here's the big long view of TCA. And they do need to make some changes. Every organization does. It's time to step back and take a close scrutiny of this category and that voting process. Do they work? Could we have better results? And since the advent on the scene of the Critics' Choice Awards in recent years, I think that competition and that alternate perspective is such a healthy thing that TCA needs to now take it, absorb it, learn the lessons therein, and go back and up their game and give the Critics' Choice Awards a run for their money. Anyway, final thoughts, you guys.
I'm really excited to see what wins, Program of the Year. And Riley had some really great points about, what that means to be Program of the Year. And perhaps the biggest issue is the title of that category. If it really is about cultural impact, maybe it should be changed to, the show with the biggest cultural impact of the year. That's kind of a long title, but I think you get what I'm saying there. But what will win this year? Breaking Bad has won before, Game of Thrones has won before, and you see The Good Wife in there all of a sudden, and Orange is the New Black and True Detective. It could really go any way, and I'm very, very excited to see who wins that category this year.
I have attended the TCA Awards. I've been to about 6 or 7 of them, not in the last few years, but back in the 90s and the 2000s, etc. And they like to keep it very...
after this, Tom.
Oh, look, I was thrown out of those TCA events long ago. I've been causing trouble for these guys forever, and they know it. But that's because we love them, and we love all these awards, and we want to see them get better. And if they can't take criticism, fuck them. We're here. We're not going away. We're going to keep criticizing you and get over it, and keep your capital letters up to your Twitter self. But the TCA Awards like to keep it very, very chummy because they get to stand there and with cocktails and be all chummy. Although I have to tell you, the funniest, absolutely most hilarious TCA Awards event I was ever at, and I forget what year it was. It was held over at the Century Plaza, I believe. And here you've got all these snooty TV critics, just so smug and full of themselves, bestowing their tablets on the mountaintop of their blessings of approval on this star and that show, and reminding everybody how lofty they are. And there was the actual award, and I think it was Matt Roush who turned over to me and said, "Don't look now, but has anybody looked at the actual award? Television Critics of America is misspelled." Journalists misspelled their own award on their thing. Isn't that hilarious?
I love it.
Of course, I have the Golden Globe right across the room here for the Ben-Hur Best Picture, where they misspelled the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. The foreigners misspelled the word foreign, but the American journalists have done the same thing, and that reminds us of just how human we are. And do you have any final thoughts, Riley?
Yeah, I like the TCA Awards, how they don't separate men and women. I think not everything should just be trying to rip off the Emmys. And who's to say that acting done by a male or a female should be judged differently anyway? I will say though that the one place where the TCA is indefensible is the miniseries category, which you brought up earlier, because every single one of their nominees this year for Best Miniseries is coming back for another season. So that really is just a place for them to, award shows that they would prefer to not award in drama so they can award others. And then at the expense of that, they're snubbing something like The Normal Heart, which is, hugely critically acclaimed, a lot of big actors. There's no reason why that should be snubbed. And I think the only reason it was, in addition to, trying to recognize all these fake miniseries, is that they moved the awards up, so not enough of them had actually seen it. So at a certain point, what are their priorities? Are they just trying to be first, or are they actually trying to judge what the best on television is?
You're right. The category is called Outstanding Achievement in Movies, Miniseries, and Specials. There are no movies nominated. There are no specials nominated. It's all miniseries.
Well, thank you guys. I'm sure we'll get our answers on Twitter soon after this posts at YouTube. We appreciate it. We invite the critics to respond civilly, non-civilly. We love theatrics, so tantrums are welcome too. Those are always fun. But don't call us morons. We're a lot of things. We're pompous just like you guys, but we're not stupid. We make dumb mistakes. I did, by the way, in our last telecast, did mention, and this really infuriated them, that I had never seen Broad City or Trophy Wife. But as Riley pointed out in our when we were dishing each other via email, he said, "Why are they upset about you not seeing Broad City, Tom? Either have they. Look over at Metacritic. It's only got 14 reviews." I love that response. All right. By the way, we love Broad City at Gold Derby. We interviewed those gals the other day. If I happen to have a little blind spot in what I've managed to see and catch up with, these guys are on top of things. They've watched it. They've interviewed the stars. We're doing our best here on the editorial team to bring you these contenders on the Emmy side. Thank you for watching. Well, this will not be the last word. We'll all be back.